Have you ever wondered why a nut exists that seems almost too easy? Walnuts make you wrestle with nutcrackers like you're fixing a leaking pipe. Almonds sit there in silence, stubborn as a locked vault door. But pistachios, they lie open-mouthed, as if they've already finished 80% of the work for you. If nature were an engineer, would this be a mistake or a strategy? Because in the plant world, nothing comes for free. A shell doesn't split because it wants to be friendly. It cracks because pressure has been building for a very long time. And when you hold an already open pistachio, you're holding the result of a quiet struggle between growth and limitation. So the real question isn't, why does it open? It's, who actually benefits from that crack? Imagine a teenager growing so fast that their favorite pair of jeans can't keep up. The seams stretch. The fabric begins to tear. Not because the jeans are poorly made, but because the body inside has outgrown its old boundaries. The pistachio Pistacia vera goes through something similar. When it's young, the hard shell hugs the kernel like a helmet. But as the kernel grows faster than the shell can expand, pressure begins to build. Botanists call this process dehiscence, a form of natural splitting when the fruit matures. It sounds academic, but the mechanism is simple. A rigid material fails to keep up with an expanding core. Inside the seed, the kernel is rich in lipids, plant fats. These molecules store energy in long carbon chains, like tightly compressed coils. As the nut matures, these reserves accumulate, pushing outward against the woody shell. Eventually, at just the right moment, the shell splits along a predetermined weak line that formed while the nut was still green. This isn't an accident. It's design. That crack marks a transition from protection to exposure. But why would a living organism trade away its armor? The answer lies beyond the tree itself. Thousands of years ago, on the dry plateaus of West Asia, humans began domesticating pistachios. Archaeological evidence suggests they were consumed as far back as the late Stone Age. As the Persian Empire expanded, the pale green nut traveled with merchants along the Silk Road. In the wild, a completely sealed seed depends on wind, water, or animals for dispersal. Pistachios chose a bolder strategy attraction. The split shell doesn't just reveal the kernel, it creates a visual signal. A narrow opening, exposing soft green color and a faint buttery aroma. To rodents, it's an invitation. To humans, it's convenience. Place two nuts side by side, one requiring a hammer, the other just two fingers, and the choice becomes instinctive. From an evolutionary perspective, this is a strategy of survival through digestion. When eaten, seeds may travel farther, eventually landing in new soil, enriched by natural fertilizer. It sounds paradoxical. Being eaten becomes an opportunity to live. But in ecosystems, not every death is a failure. Humans, unintentionally, became the strongest selective force. Trees producing a higher percentage of naturally split nuts were harvested and replanted more often. Over generations, that iconic smiling shell became reinforced. It isn't lazy, it's optimized. And here's where things get interesting: that very imperfection, the crack, becomes a competitive advantage. In psychology, humans are naturally drawn to things that appear open. A closed door makes us cautious. A slightly open door sparks curiosity. Pistachios tap directly into that instinct. When you peel open a nut that's already split, you feel a small sense of effortless victory. Not because you're strong, but because the door was waiting for you. Compared to a walnut's fortress-like shell, a pistachio feels like a house with a window glowing from inside. It sends a silent signal, I'm ready. Economists talk about transaction costs. The less friction involved, the more likely a choice becomes. Pistachios reduce friction almost to zero. Eating becomes nearly effortless. That's how they earned a special place in culinary culture. From ancient Middle Eastern feasts to modern airline snack trays, they carry a tiny smile with them. Not because they're joyful, but because their physical structure shaped their destiny. Nature doesn't always reward the strongest armor. Sometimes, long-term survival comes from flexibility, from knowing when to split open rather than hold on forever. A crack can be a weakness, but it can also be an entrance. So the next time you hear the soft snap of a pistachio shell, remember, you're witnessing a design refined over thousands of years. It isn't lazy at all. It's telling a story about pressure, selection, and nature's courage to open at the right moment. And if you find it fascinating that a tiny crack can hold an entire evolutionary history, stay curious because sometimes the most extraordinary stories are already resting in the palm of your hand.